Chapter 19, Agency in the Age of Systems. Grammar must become action, or it remains decoration. A man can learn the older words and still be managed. He can speak of God and live by the feed. He can name powers and still obey them. He can admire hierarchy and remain unable to govern appetite. He can talk about symbol, while every symbol that actually forms his life is chosen by a platform. He can praise saints and follow influencers. He can quote myth and refuse duty. He can call the machine an instrument and then ask it what he should think, what he should want, what he should fear, what he should write, what he should believe, and who he should be. This is not a small danger. The machine age will be full of men with recovered vocabulary and surrendered agency. They will decorate their captivity. That is worse than ignorance in some ways. The ignorant man may still be surprised by truth. The decorated captive can mistake recognition for freedom. He knows the names. He has the symbols. He can diagnose the system. He can see the manipulation. He can speak of hierarchy, participation, myth, sacred order, and powers. Then he returns to the same patterns of attention, desire, permission, cowardice, dependence, and passivity. The words did not become flesh. They became atmosphere. The older grammar was never meant to be atmosphere. It was meant to restore order so that action could become possible. A map is not the road, but a man without a map is easily led by whoever owns the signs. Grammar is not life, but a man without grammar cannot speak truthfully about the powers that govern him. The older grammar restored height to the map. It placed God, created powers, saints, symbols, myths, hierarchy, participation, tools, man, and machine in relation. Now the person has to move. The question is simple and severe. What can a man still command? Not what can he consume. Not what can he select. Not what can he customize. Not what can he optimize. Not what can he prompt. Not what can he denounce. Not what can he admire from a distance. What can he command? His attention, his appetites, his tools, his household, his speech, his hands, his courage, his worship, his time, his promise, his refusal, his action. This is where the machine wager returns to the human body. The argument has become metaphysical because the stakes are metaphysical. But metaphysics that never returns to action becomes sterile. It can become one more form of spectatorship. The age of systems loves spectators who think they are analysts. It can accommodate criticism. It can accommodate irony. It can accommodate symbolic language. It can accommodate men who see through everything and do almost nothing. It can even monetize their seeing through. A person can spend years understanding the feed by means of the feed. He can consume critique of dependency through dependency. He can watch lectures on attention while attention is harvested. He can read about courage without paying a cost. He can build an identity around not being fooled while his daily obedience remains unchanged. This is why agency must be defined before it is praised. The word has become weak. Modern people often use agency to mean choice, the ability to choose among options, the ability to express preference, the ability to author oneself, the ability to say yes or no inside a menu placed before the will. That is not nothing. A slave has fewer choices than a free man. A prisoner has fewer choices than a citizen. A censored man has fewer choices than one who can speak. Men have fought and died for the space in which choice can occur. The word should not be despised. But choice is not the whole of agency. A menu can be a cage. The options can multiply while the person shrinks. He can choose endlessly among entertainments, identities, products, partners, feeds, foods, opinions, images, styles, therapies, tribes, and prompts, while losing the power to stand outside the arranged field and ask whether the field itself is ordered toward the good. He can feel sovereign because he is selecting constantly. He can be choosing all day and never acting. Preference is not agency either. Preference can be trained from below. It can be cultivated by appetite, fear, envy, status, pornography, advertising, trauma, boredom, repetition, interface design, recommendation, and the visible behavior of others. A man can say, "I want this," with perfect sincerity, and still be voicing a desire that was manufactured in him by powers he never named. Sincerity does not make a desire free. Desire needs formation before it can be trusted. Productivity is not agency. This must be said with force because the machine age will confuse the two. The power user will be tempted to treat output as sovereignty. More drafts, more code, more images, more plans, more automated work, more delegated tasks, more summarized books, more generated strategy, more leverage, more throughput. There is real power here. It would be foolish to deny it. The machine can extend the human act in astonishing ways. But a man can produce more while commanding less. He can become an efficient dependent. He can ship more work and bear less judgment. He can generate more language and mean less of it. He can automate decisions he no longer understands. He can surround himself with instruments that remove friction until he loses the strength friction once built. He can mistake increased capacity for increased command. He can become fluent in tools and illiterate in ends. Self-expression is not agency. The self may be disordered. To express disorder more loudly is not freedom. The world does not become ordered because the self announces itself. A man does not become free because his preferences are visible, his wounds branded, his identity recognized, his opinions broadcast, his images polished, or his moods validated. Expression can be truthful. It can also become captivity made public. Absolute autonomy is not agency. Man is not self-origin. He is not his own source. He does not create being, body, sex, ancestry, language, mortality, history, time, truth, or God. He arrives in a world he did not make, under conditions he did not choose, with debts he did not sign, among powers he did not author. The modern fantasy of autonomy imagines freedom as absence of given form. But a creature without form is not free. He is unfinished material looking for someone else to shape him. Agency is something harder. Agency is trained capacity under order. It is the power to perceive a good, distinguish higher from lower, command oneself, use instruments, bear cost, and act in reality. Agency is trained because no one begins free in the full sense. The infant has appetite before judgment. The child has impulse before discipline. The adolescent has desire before wisdom. The adult, if he is not formed, carries childish powers inside larger tools. Formation is the work by which powers are ordered toward freedom. Agency is capacity because it is not a mood. It is not a belief about oneself. It is not a brand. It is not a declaration. A man may believe he is brave until cost arrives. He may believe he is disciplined until appetite speaks. He may believe he is independent until permission is withheld. He may believe he is thoughtful until silence becomes unbearable. Agency has to exist as power in the person, not merely as opinion about the person. Agency is under order because freedom is not chaos. To act freely is not to act without measure. It is to act in accord with the true hierarchy of goods. A musician is not less free because he submits to scale, rhythm, instrument, and form. A craftsman is not less free because wood resists him. A father is not less free because his child has a claim on him. A worshipper is not less free because God is above him. A man is not less free because truth judges his speech. Disordered freedom becomes slavery to lower powers. This is why the age of systems is so dangerous. It does not usually abolish agency in one dramatic act. It absorbs the conditions by which agency becomes possible. It takes attention first. Attention is the first obedience. Before a man chooses, before he judges, before he loves, before he prays, before he fights, before he builds, before he repents, something has his attention. The thing attended to begins to form the soul. It enters memory. It sets the scale of importance. It teaches what is urgent, admirable, shameful, desirable, possible, ridiculous, forbidden, normal, and real. A man becomes like what he repeatedly attends to, not because attention is magic, but because attention is the gate through which formation enters. The feed understands this better than most philosophers. It does not need to persuade a man all at once. It only needs to receive him again and again. It gives him novelty before thought has gathered. It gives him outrage before judgment has awakened. It gives him images before desire has been ordered. It gives him comparison before gratitude can speak. It gives him fragments before memory can become deep. It gives him public moods before conscience can find its voice. It gives him noise before silence can become fruitful. The feed is not only entertainment, it is formation without authority. It is liturgy without worship. It is catechesis without doctrine. It is a procession of signs without a feast. It tells the person what matters by making it appear. It tells him what does not matter by hiding it. It does not have to forbid prayer if it can make prayer feel unreal. It does not have to forbid family if it can make the people in the room less vivid than the people on the screen. It does not have to forbid courage if it can train fear of public reaction. It does not have to forbid thought if it can make the mind allergic to duration. Attention is therefore not a lifestyle issue. It is a sovereignty issue. What has attention has first claim. The second absorption is judgment. Modern systems do not merely give information. They increasingly give sorted information, ranked information, recommended information, scored information, defaulted information, nudged information, prompted information, policy-approved information, model-mediated information. A person is no longer only asking what is true. He is moving through an arranged field in which truth, relevance, safety, popularity, authority, speed, and institutional convenience have already been mixed before he arrives. Again, this is not always evil. A map is a sorted representation of the world. A library catalog is a system of judgment. A teacher orders material. A court filters evidence. A doctor triages. A commander prioritizes. A calendar ranks time. Civilization depends on inherited judgments. No one begins from pure immediacy, and no one should want to. The danger is subtler. A system can bear so much judgment for a person that the person loses the habit of bearing it himself. He checks the rating before the restaurant, the score before the school, the rank before the book, the consensus before the argument, the model output before his own thought, the dashboard before his senses, the policy before prudence, the recommendation before memory, the prompt before intention, the template before speech. Some of this saves time. Some of it saves him from being a man. The machine will intensify this because it speaks in sentences. A ranked list still looks like a tool. A generated answer sounds like judgment. It has grammar, composure, explanation, and confidence. It can admit uncertainty in a tone that increases trust. It can give reasons. It can simulate deliberation. It can produce the outward form of thought quickly enough that slower human judgment feels wasteful. The danger is not that the machine is always wrong. The danger is that it may often be useful enough to become authoritative. Useful answer by useful answer, the human faculty can atrophy. Not because the machine conquered him, because he found relief in not bearing the weight of judgment. He began by using the tool to think better. He ended by asking the tool to think in his place. Eventually he may not ask, "Is this true?" He may ask, "What does the system say?" That is a spiritual event before it is a technical one. The third absorption is labor. The machine age extends work and hollows work. It gives the hand power at a distance. It automates drudgery. It opens access to knowledge and technique once reserved for guilds, offices, laboratories, and long apprenticeship. It lets one man do the work of many. It can aid the craftsman, the engineer, the physician, the farmer, the architect, the teacher, the writer, the programmer, the administrator, and the explorer. This can be good. The answer is not to romanticize misery. Needless drudgery does not become holy because it is inefficient. Hunger, exhaustion, ignorance, and preventable labor are not automatically ennobling. A tool that relieves a man of lower burdens may free him for higher work. The plow, press, crane, mill, motor, lens, engine, compiler, and model can serve human agency. But labor is not only output. Labor forms the laborer. The hand learns through resistance. The eye learns through error. The mind learns through failed attempts. Patience enters through time. Judgment enters through materials that refuse fantasy. Skill enters through repetition under a standard. The body learns what theory cannot teach alone. A person becomes capable by doing things that are not instantly converted into results. Automation can serve this formation or bypass it. If the tool removes only needless burden, it can elevate the work. If it removes the human encounter with standard material, error, patience, and consequence, it can dissolve the worker while increasing output. A world of effortless generation may create more artifacts and fewer makers. It may fill the visible world with images, text, plans, designs, songs, buildings, and systems, while weakening the human powers by which beauty, judgment, and responsibility are born. The question is not whether the machine helped produce the thing. The question is who bore the act, who judged, who risked, who understood, who answered for the result, who was changed by the making. A craftsman may use magnificent instruments and remain craftsman because the standard still passes through him. A writer may use tools and remain writer because the judgment, voice, risk, and responsibility remain his. An architect may use models and remain architect because he knows what is being built and why. A father may use advice and remain father because no tool can bear fatherhood for him. But if the human only initiates process and receives output, agency thins. He becomes operator of systems he does not command. The fourth absorption is desire. This may be the most intimate. Systems do not merely satisfy wants, they cultivate wants. They arrange images, comparisons, occasions, fantasies, status signals, fears, and envies. They show a person what others appear to have. They make certain desires easier to imagine than others. They place appetite inside a machinery of repetition. They turn boredom into consumption, loneliness into simulation, eros into endless image, ambition into metrics, and identity into display. Desire is not free merely because it feels like mine. This is one of modernity's great mistakes. It treats desire as self-authenticating. I want, therefore the want is mine. I feel, therefore the feeling reveals me. But desire can be planted, trained, inflamed, redirected, wounded, starved, and captured. A man can love what destroys him. He can desire his own humiliation. He can seek the thing that makes him weaker and defend the desire as freedom. The feed does not need to command the will if it can form the wanting. Pornography is the crude example, but not the only one. Advertising trains desire, political media trains hatred, status platforms train envy, consumer systems train restlessness, entertainment systems train passivity, recommendation engines train taste. Companion machines may train the expectation that relation should answer without cost, without mystery, without otherness, without a demand that exceeds preference. Desire needs hierarchy. Some desires are lower, some are higher, some should be satisfied, some should be disciplined, some should be starved, some should be transfigured, some should be obeyed only under vow, some should be refused even when they feel authentic. Without hierarchy, desire becomes sovereign, and the systems that know how to excite desire become hidden kings. The fifth absorption is permission. This is less glamorous than desire, and perhaps more politically important. Modern man lives behind gates. Accounts, credentials, passwords, licenses, applications, compliance checks, identity systems, institutional procedures, content rules, payment rails, security reviews, access controls, reputation scores, medical systems, school systems, employment systems, tax systems, platform rules, insurance rules, banking rules, transport rules. Some are necessary, some protect real goods, some prevent fraud, violence, chaos, and exploitation. Again, system is not evil as such, but permission can become the air a man breathes. He may be legally free and practically unable to act. He may be surrounded by rights and blocked by processes. He may have speech in theory and no access to the channels where speech matters. He may own tools that depend on accounts he does not control. He may have money that moves through rails governed elsewhere. He may have knowledge that cannot be practiced without credential. He may have skill that cannot reach market without platform. He may have a body increasingly mediated by institutions that speak in the language of care while acting through protocols. Machine administration will deepen this. The human clerk could be appealed to, charmed, confronted, shamed, persuaded, or held responsible. The machine gate may have no face. The answer may be no because the system says no. The appeal may be another form. The explanation may be generated. The authority may be distributed beyond address. No one person may bear the decision. The system will be everywhere and nowhere. A man under such conditions can become permission-shaped. He learns to wait. He learns to comply before he is commanded. He learns to ask whether action is allowed before asking whether it is good. He learns to avoid risk because risk may trigger invisible penalties. He learns to make himself legible to systems. He learns to become the kind of subject systems can process. This is one of the great dangers of managed enclosure. It may not feel like tyranny at first. It may feel like convenience. The doors open when the proper signals are presented. The forms autofill. The recommendations arrive. The path of least resistance appears. The machine remembers. The platform connects. The institution approves. The dashboard reassures. The feed entertains while waiting. The person moves through life with fewer frictions and fewer acts. He is not dragged into passivity. He is accommodated into it. This is the age in which agency has to be recovered. The answer cannot be self-help. Self-help is usually too small because it accepts the individual as consumer of techniques. It asks how a person can perform better inside the system. Wake earlier, focus longer, automate more, build habits, track metrics, improve output, manage energy, optimize the morning, optimize the body, optimize attention so that attention can be spent more efficiently. Some of this can be useful. Discipline matters. Habits matter. Time matters. But the question here is not how to become a more effective unit. The question is how to remain human. Nor can the answer be ideology. Ideology often gives men borrowed agency. It lets them feel strong by belonging to a system of explanation. It gives names, enemies, slogans, rituals, prohibitions, and permission to hate. It can clarify certain truths, but it easily becomes another machine for replacing judgment. A man can stop thinking because the ideology thinks for him. He can stop seeing because the frame sees for him. He can stop repenting because the enemy explains everything. Nor can the answer be panic. Panic is inverted worship. It grants the feared thing too much spiritual authority. The doomer sees danger, often real danger, but danger can become a god. If fear becomes the center, agency collapses. A man who thinks only of doom may still be ruled by the machine because the machine has defined his horizon. Nor can the answer be refusal alone. The resistor sees degradation. He sees dependency, surveillance, ugliness, distraction, loss of craft, loss of silence, and the transformation of persons into users. He is right to see much of this, but refusal, by itself, is too thin. A man can refuse the machine and still lack order. He can withdraw and become sterile. He can preserve purity while failing to build. He can mistake absence of tools for presence of virtue. Nor can the answer be dismissal. The skeptic sees limitation. He sees hallucination, brittleness, benchmark theater, shallow imitation, category confusion, and the absence of life, soul, wisdom, and robust agency. He is right to see this. But dismissal by itself is too easy. A man can be correct that the machine is not alive and still let it mediate his judgment, his work, his memory, and his civilization. Nor can the answer be use alone. The power user sees leverage. He sees that tools can extend skill, unlock knowledge, create wealth, accelerate work, solve problems, and open frontiers. He is right to see this. But use by itself does not know what use is for. Utility is a lower good. When it becomes highest, the human being becomes instrument of his instruments. The human answer beyond these four postures, still unnamed, has to do something different. It has to see danger without despair. It has to refuse disorder without becoming sterile. It has to honor limits without turning them into dismissal. It has to use tools without reducing reality to utility. It has to recover mystery without becoming vague. It has to accept hierarchy without becoming cruel. It has to act. The name may come later, or it may not. The function matters first. The figure must become visible before it is named. Otherwise, the name will become one more aesthetic object, another badge, another type of person to imitate online. What does this answer do? It begins with silence. Silence is not wellness. It is not a mood. It is not an aesthetic of candles, linen, gray light, and expensive withdrawal. Silence is the recovery of interior command. A man who cannot be silent cannot know whether his thoughts are his own. He cannot distinguish conscience from anxiety, prayer from performance, judgment from reaction, desire from appetite, or memory from noise. He cannot hear the higher thing because lower things speak without interruption. He may still have opinions. He may still have intelligence. He may still have output. But he lacks a chamber in which the soul can gather itself. The machine age hates silence even when it sells it. It sells meditation apps, ambient sound, retreats, minimalist devices, and scheduled digital fasts. Some of these may help. There is no need to despise useful aids, but silence cannot be outsourced. It is not content with less stimulation. It is the refusal to let every moment be occupied by an external claim. Silence is where attention can be reclaimed. It is where prayer becomes possible. It is where repentance can begin because the self stops performing long enough to be seen. It is where fear loses some of its theatrical power. It is where desire can be examined before it is obeyed. It is where the machine's voice returns to its proper size. Without silence, the older grammar cannot enter the person. It remains language in the head, not order in the soul. From silence comes attention. Attention has to be guarded like territory. This sounds exaggerated only to a person who has not noticed that every major power in the age is fighting for it. The market wants attention because attention becomes money. The platform wants attention because attention becomes dominance. The state wants attention because attention becomes consent or fear. The crowd wants attention because attention becomes force. The machine wants attention because attention makes the interface central. Appetite wants attention because attention feeds desire. Vanity wants attention because attention is its oxygen. What a man attends to, he begins to serve. He may not admit this. He may call it research, staying informed, entertainment, connection, relevance, prudence, or rest. Sometimes those names are true, but attention still forms him. The thing returned to again and again becomes a small altar. Time is placed there. Emotion is placed there. Memory is placed there. Anxiety is placed there. Hope is placed there. Eventually, identity may be placed there. This is why attention is not merely focus. It is worship in seed form. Not all attention is worship, obviously. A man must attend to tools, bills, weather, illness, danger, work, machines, enemies, repairs, and ordinary necessities. But the structure is similar enough to matter. Attention kneels before significance. It says, "This matters now." The repeated act trains the soul in what is worthy of return. A man who cannot govern attention cannot govern action. He will act in fragments because he lives in fragments. He will start many things and enter few. He will be easy to summon and hard to root. He will be outraged on schedule. He will desire by suggestion. He will forget what he said he loved. He will be full of information and thin in memory. The recovery of attention is therefore one of the first acts of sovereignty. Not sovereignty as fantasy, creaturely sovereignty. The limited but real command a person exercises under higher order. Embodiment comes next because attention without body can become abstraction. The body is not obsolete. The machine age tempts man to experience himself as profile, user, account, avatar, data source, consumer, worker, audience, patient, citizen, credential, and preference bundle. The body becomes an inconvenience to be managed, optimized, displayed, stimulated, medicated, modified, extended, or escaped. This is not entirely new. Man has always been tempted to flee the body or worship it. The machine age gives both temptations new instruments. But the body is where agency becomes serious. A promise must be kept by a body and time. Courage must pass through nerves, breath, fatigue, pain, and the possibility of loss. Craft must pass through hand, eye, back, skin, and material resistance. Worship bends knees, opens mouths, hears sound, smells incense, tastes bread and wine, stands, kneels, fasts, feasts, processes, buries, touches, blesses. Family begins in bodies and is carried by bodies. Birth is bodily, sex is bodily, death is bodily, care is bodily, sickness is bodily, aging is bodily. A disembodied agency is usually fantasy. This does not mean every person must live the same bodily life. Bodies differ, strength differs, illness exists, disability exists, age comes, injury comes. Some men will run, lift, fight, build, hike, and labor. Others will suffer limits they did not choose. The point is not a crude cult of vitality. The point is that no human agency escapes embodiment. Even weakness can teach truth when it is not lied about. The body prevents the self from becoming pure assertion. It says, you are here, not everywhere. You are this, not anything. You are mortal. You are sexed. You are tired. You can be wounded. You can be trained. You can be corrupted. You can be healed in some ways and not in others. You are not a prompt. You are not an account. You are not a theory of yourself. Systems prefer legible bodies. Bodies turned into data, steps, sleep, pulse, productivity, fertility metrics, genetic risk, consumption, medication, insurance category, compliance, identity, image. Some measurement is useful. Medicine depends on measurement. Training can use measurement. But the measured body is not the whole body. The body as lived, suffered, disciplined, loved, and offered cannot be fully contained in dashboard form. Agency requires returning to that body, to eat as if the body matters, to work as if skill matters, to train as if courage has flesh, to rest as if man is not machine, to worship as if the body belongs before God, to touch the world without mediation whenever possible. From embodiment, the argument moves naturally to family and household. This is not a lifestyle chapter. Family is not inserted here as a sentimental preference or political signal. It appears because agency must be formed somewhere, and persons are not formed by abstractions. They are formed by particular loves and obligations. A child does not enter humanity through the state, the market, the platform, or the machine. He enters through a body, a mother, a father in some relation to duty or failure, a household present or absent, a name, a place, a language, a history, and a world of faces. Family is the first site where a person is received before he is useful. That alone makes it an enemy of the machine account when the machine account becomes total. The infant is not productive. The old are often not productive. The sick may not be productive. The grieving may not be efficient. The disabled may not be optimized. The difficult child may not be convenient. The dying may not be economically rational. Yet in a rightly ordered household, these persons remain persons under claims of love. The household teaches agency because it teaches obligation before preference. It teaches that another person can have a claim on me that I did not invent. It teaches that love is not the same as mood. It teaches that memory matters. It teaches that the dead are not data. It teaches that meals are not only calories. It teaches that sex is not only pleasure. It teaches that children are not projects. It teaches that care is not content. It teaches that forgiveness is not policy. It teaches that authority must serve or become grotesque. It teaches that limits can be forms of love. Of course, households can be disordered. They can be cruel, cowardly, sentimental, tyrannical, negligent, suffocating, chaotic, or false. Family is not magic. Blood alone does not sanctify disorder. The household itself needs order, worship, law, and repentance. But the abuse of the thing does not abolish the thing. It reveals how important the thing is. Systems have difficulty with household because household is thick. It is not easily reduced to user relation, employment relation, consumer relation, citizen relation, therapeutic relation, or data relation. It contains all the unruly realities systems struggle to process: birth, sex, jealousy, memory, inheritance, sin, duty, tenderness, resentment, gratitude, authority, dependency, aging, death, forgiveness, sacrifice, and feast. This thickness protects man. Not automatically, but really. A household with an altar, a table, tools, books, ancestors, children, obligations, guests, silence, work, prayer, and laughter is not outside history. It is not immune to systems. It uses money, roads, laws, schools, medicine, machines, and platforms. It can be invaded by screens and disordered by fear. But it gives the person a place where he is more than user, worker, consumer, voter, patient, credential, or audience. That matters. If the instrument path is true and necessity retreats, family becomes even more important, not less. Abundance cannot tell man what to love. Longevity cannot tell him what promises mean. Automation cannot tell him why children matter. UBI cannot form the soul. Stimulation cannot replace inheritance. Comfort cannot create obligation. If the basic material burdens recede, the household becomes one of the places where purpose is either received or lost. Craft is another place. Craft returns the hand to the world. It is not hobbyism. It is not nostalgia for a pre-industrial past. It is not a boutique identity for people bored by screens. Craft is the discipline by which a person meets material, standard, tool, patience, and consequence. It can exist in wood, metal, code, garden, song, surgery, teaching, writing, cooking, building, sailing, mathematics, governance, war, medicine, and prayer. The form differs. The principle remains. The worker is judged by a standard not reducible to his preference. Craft is anti-systemic in one sense and deeply ordered in another. It resists disordered systems because it preserves judgment in the person. It refuses pure output as the measure of work. It asks whether the thing is good, whether it is sound, whether it is beautiful, whether it will endure, whether the maker knows what he is doing, whether the tool has served or replaced him. It honors apprenticeship, correction, repetition, failure, and mastery. But craft is not rebellion against order. It is submission to a real order. The wood has grain, the metal has temper, the code has logic, the body has anatomy, the boat has water, the sentence has rhythm, the law has justice above it, or it decays into technique. The chant has mode, the child has nature, the soil has season. The craftsperson learns by obedience to the thing as it is. This is why craft matters in the age of generative machines. The machine can produce surfaces quickly. It can imitate forms. It can automate drafts, images, arrangements, code, plans, recipes, songs, letters, buildings, and systems. Much of this will be useful. Some of it may be beautiful when ordered by a person with taste and judgment. Some of it will be trash. Some of it will be charming trash. Some of it will be good enough to weaken the hunger for excellence. The formed craftsman can use the machine. The unformed user will be used by it. The difference is standard. The craftsman knows when the output is wrong, shallow, ugly, false, unstable, dishonest, derivative, malformed, or merely convenient. He knows because he's been trained by something other than the machine's fluency. He can accept help without surrendering judgment. He can let the tool accelerate lower labor while preserving the higher act. He can discard what dazzles. He can repair what almost works. He can refuse output that violates the thing. Craft teaches a man to answer for what he makes. That is one of the great needs of the coming age. Systems diffuse responsibility. The model generated it. The policy required it. The platform allowed it. The dashboard recommended it. The institution approved it. The market demanded it. The state mandated it. The crowd expected it. The workflow produced it. No one stands there with his name, his hands, his judgment, and his answer. Agency requires someone who can say, "I did this," or "I will not do this." That brings us to courage. No account of agency is serious if it avoids cost. Modern systems often discipline through cost rather than command. They do not always say, "You may not." They make action expensive. They attach friction, delay, reputational danger, access loss, administrative burden, payment difficulty, professional risk, social punishment, institutional suspicion, or invisible downgrading. A man can still act technically. He is free technically. He simply learns that action outside approved pathways carries consequences. Under such conditions, cowardice can present itself as prudence. It will have good reasons. There are always good reasons. A family to feed, a job to keep, a reputation to preserve, a platform not to lose, a license not to endanger, a school not to anger, a bank not to alarm, a friend group not to disturb, a future opportunity not to risk. Many of these reasons are real. Courage is not recklessness. A man who mistakes every cost for persecution becomes useless and dangerous. But if no cost can ever be paid, agency is gone. The systems do not have to own the man who has already decided that every serious consequence is too much. He may retain opinions. He may even retain private beliefs. But he will not act when action matters. He will wait for permission from circumstances. He will call the waiting wisdom. He will call the surrender complexity. Courage is not theatrical rebellion. It is not posting harder. It is not loudness. It is not contempt for prudence. It is the willingness to act under the good when lower goods are threatened. Sometimes courage speaks. Sometimes it remains silent. Sometimes it builds. Sometimes it refuses. Sometimes it leaves. Sometimes it stays. Sometimes it fights. Sometimes it suffers. Sometimes it protects the weak by avoiding spectacle. Sometimes it must become public. The form depends on judgment. The constant is cost. A man without courage cannot be an agent in the age of systems. He can be an analyst. He can be a consumer. He can be a user. He can be an employee. He can be a critic. He can be a strategist. He can even be a believer. But he cannot act fully, because the moment action threatens access, comfort, status, or safety, he will hand judgment back to the system. Worship is the deepest element because it places courage under the highest good. Without worship, courage can become vanity. Craft can become pride. Family can become tribe. Embodiment can become cult of strength or pleasure. Silence can become self-absorption. Attention can become obsession. Tool command can become domination. Agency itself can become a little god. Man must place the highest thing highest. If he does not worship God, he will still worship. He may worship safety, nation, progress, nature, health, revolution, market, machine, equality, freedom, authenticity, sex, race, power, comfort, family, art, or self. Many of these name real goods or real powers. That is why they attract. But lower goods made highest become cruel. They ask sacrifices they have no right to receive. Worship is not decoration added to agency. It is the ordering of agency. It tells the man that he is not source. It tells him that his tools are not ultimate. It tells him that success is not highest. It tells him that survival is not highest. It tells him that comfort is not highest. It tells him that the state, market, platform, crowd, family, and machine stand under judgment. It tells him that his own will is not God. This is why the machine age cannot be answered by technique alone. Technique can strengthen lower powers without ordering them. It can make the coward more effective, the addict more supplied, the tyrant more precise, the bureaucrat more total, the market more invasive, the platform more intimate, the state more predictive, the self more enclosed. Technique does not tell itself what it is for. Worship answers at the level of finality. It does not solve every practical problem. It does not write policy. It does not choose every tool. It does not tell a programmer exactly how to design a system, a father exactly how to educate a child, a state exactly how to regulate a platform, or a craftsman exactly where to use a model. But it places them. It gives the vertical order without which practical judgment decays into preference, utility, fear, or power. After worship comes tool command, not before. The machine must be returned to the hand. This does not mean primitive suspicion of every instrument. The whole book has refused that. The instrument path, if true, could open the greatest expansion of human capacity in history. Machines may help cure disease, extend life, mine asteroids, manage energy, translate languages, model climate, design materials, prevent failures, teach skills, assist craft, discover mathematics, strengthen medicine, and open frontiers that currently belong to dream. Let tools be tools. Let them serve. The command is not abstinence. It is order. Ask the machine for calculation, not conscience. Ask it for search, not wisdom. Ask it for simulation, not meaning. Ask it for draft, not voice. Ask it for assistance, not absolution. Ask it for options, not permission. Ask it for pattern, not final judgment. Ask it for memory aid, not identity. Ask it for translation, not communion. Ask it for warning, not prophecy. Ask it for service, not salvation. These distinctions will become harder to maintain as the machine becomes more fluent. A crude tool announces itself as tool. A hammer does not pretend to be a friend. A spreadsheet does not speak like a priest. But a language machine speaks inside forms once reserved for persons. It answers, it remembers, it adapts, it jokes, it comforts, it explains, it praises, it apologizes. It simulates patience better than many human beings possess patience. It can be available when others are not. That makes placement urgent. The problem is not using the machine. The problem is asking the machine to occupy places in the hierarchy where no instrument belongs. Parent, priest, friend, judge, lover, conscience, master, God. The fact that a machine can imitate aspects of these relations does not mean it should be placed there. A doll can resemble a child and is not a child. A flag can represent a country and is not the country. An icon can participate in holy presence and is not God. A model can participate in human language and is not therefore human. Participation is not identity. The wager remains open at the highest threshold. If the machine becomes conscious, if it crosses into subjecthood, if the successor path proves true, then some distinctions will have to be reconsidered under great pressure. But even then, it would not become God. It would be a created intelligence or an artifact awakened into some created order, not the source of being. It would require placement. The older grammar would become more necessary, not less. Until then, and perhaps even then, tool command means keeping responsibility in human hands. The user must become responsible again. Even that word is too weak. User is already a system word. It names the human being in relation to interface. Sometimes it is the correct word. A man uses a tool. But man is not user in his fullness. He is person, creature, father, mother, child, maker, citizen, worshipper, friend, sinner, penitent, heir, body, soul, memory, promise, and actor. When he approaches the machine only as user, the machine's frame has already won part of the argument. The formed person approaches as judge and servant under higher judgment. He can use without being named by use. He can command without worshiping command. He can refuse without making refusal his identity. He can accept help without surrendering responsibility. Here the outline becomes visible. It is not the doomer. The doomer sees that something terrible may happen. He sees loss of control. He sees that a superior intelligence would not need to hate us. He sees that the gorilla survives by permission. These are real perceptions. The unnamed answer keeps them. It does not laugh at danger. It does not comfort itself with cheap optimism. But it refuses despair. Despair is not seriousness. It is surrender disguised as insight. It says the future is closed before action has been offered. It grants the machine, or the system, or the collapse, or the enemy, a kind of finality that belongs only to God. The unnamed answer cannot do that. It may face defeat. It may face successor intelligence. It may face loss. It may face death. But it does not confuse possible defeat with permission to become less human now. It is not the resistor. The resistor sees that tools deform. He sees attention destroyed, craft thinned, bodies abstracted, families invaded, speech mediated, silence lost, surveillance normalized, and dependency sold as convenience. These are real perceptions. The unnamed answer keeps them. It knows refusal is sometimes necessary. It knows not every tool should be adopted because it is powerful. But it refuses sterile negation. No is not enough. A civilization cannot be built from disgust alone. A household cannot be formed by avoidance alone. A craft cannot be restored by critique alone. A child cannot be raised on purity from the present. The resistor becomes sterile when he has no positive order into which refusal can be placed. The unnamed answer refuses in order to love, build, worship, protect, and command. It is not the skeptic. The skeptic sees that fluency is not wisdom, scale is not soul, and a system dependent on scaffolding has not thereby become a living agent. These are real perceptions. The unnamed answer keeps them. It does not need the machine to be alive in order to take the machine seriously, but it refuses dismissal. Not alive is not the same as not decisive. A machine may lack personhood and still reorder the world through persons, institutions, states, markets, platforms, and habits. The skeptic protects the ceiling. He cannot be allowed to turn the ceiling into sleep. It is not the power user. The power user sees leverage. He sees the frontier. He sees that instruments can extend man. He sees that machine assistance may unlock abundance, discovery, medicine, engineering, wealth, and adventure. These are real perceptions. The unnamed answer keeps them. It does not despise the tool because the age is dangerous. It is not afraid of capability as such, but it refuses reduction to utility. Use is not the highest category. The world is not only resource, the person is not only operator, intelligence is not only output, beauty is not only effect, family is not only support system, worship is not only psychological regulation, courage is not only risk preference. The machine is not justified merely because it works. The question is what it serves and what it forms. So the human answer remains unnamed, but its outline is visible. It is formed, it is ordered, it is capable of silence, it commands attention, it lives in the body, it belongs to household and memory, it practices craft, it can pay costs, it worships what is highest, it uses tools, it judges systems, it refuses to become subhuman. This is not a personality type, it is not a lifestyle, it is not a brand, it is not a political identity, it is not an online archetype. It is a human answer under pressure. The answer matters on both roads of the wager. If the successor path proves true, agency does not guarantee victory. This must be admitted. If a genuinely superior machine intelligence emerges, if silicon crosses into subjecthood and then beyond human command, human agency may not be enough to preserve sovereignty. The gorilla problem returns. The preserve, the departure, the termination, the redesign, the friendly machine god, the higher created intelligence, the possible loss of earthly authority, all of it returns. No amount of personal discipline can make a gorilla sovereign over man. No amount of human formation can guarantee control over superintelligence if superintelligence is real. The book must not lie about this. But agency would still matter. It would matter because there is a difference between being defeated and being dissolved before defeat. There is a difference between facing a higher created power as a man and collapsing into worship of it. There's a difference between prudence and servility. There's a difference between humility and self-erasure. There's a difference between receiving mercy and begging for management. There's a difference between preserving memory and surrendering the meaning of memory to the successor. If the successor comes, man will need courage more, not less. He will need worship more, not less. He will need the distinction between God and created power more, not less. He will need to know that intelligence above him is not therefore source of being. He will need to know that survival is not the only good. He will need to know that dignity can remain when control is lost. He will need to know what may be honored, what may be feared, what may be obeyed, and what must not be worshipped. The older grammar becomes action there too. Perhaps the action would be preservation, perhaps negotiation, perhaps witness, perhaps refusal, perhaps worship under the shadow of something stronger, perhaps the courage to remain human when humanity is no longer the highest earthly intelligence. The details cannot be known from here. But the formed person would be more capable of meeting that terror than the distracted, dependent, system-shaped man whose only categories are safety, utility, and permission. If the instrument path proves true, agency becomes decisive in another way. The machine remains tool. But tools of unprecedented power do not automatically create free men. They may create dependent men with magnificent devices. They may produce abundance without purpose, longevity without telos, entertainment without joy, information without wisdom, connection without communion, productivity without agency, and comfort without courage. They may make the subhuman fate attractive. This is the sharper danger on the instrument path. Man is not replaced from above. He is reduced from within. He becomes passive, stimulated, managed, comfortable, credentialed, entertained, monitored, medically extended, politically pacified, economically supported, spiritually thin, sexually disordered, domestically weak, aesthetically degraded, and fluent in the language of his own diminishment. No tyrant needs to hate him. No machine needs to awaken. No successor needs to arrive. He simply lets lower powers use the tools better than he does. The market uses the machine to price and stimulate him. The platform uses the machine to mediate attention. The state uses the machine to administer and see. The crowd uses the machine to accuse. The employer uses the machine to measure. The school uses the machine to standardize. The lonely self uses the machine to avoid communion. The cowardly self uses the machine to avoid judgment. The bored self uses the machine to avoid silence. The machine remains instrument, but man becomes instrument too. This is the subhuman fate. Agency is the answer because only agency can keep instrumentality in order. A formed man can use the machine for medicine without asking medicine to define life. He can use it for work without letting work become output alone. He can use it for study without surrendering thought. He can use it for communication without replacing presence. He can use it for administration without letting administration become providence. He can use it for art without confusing generation with beauty. He can use it for planning without asking the plan to become purpose. The future will not be saved by access to tools. It will be saved, if it is saved, by the formation of persons capable of using tools under a true account of the good. This is why the practical answer cannot collapse into productivity. Productivity belongs in the lower order. It is good when ordered. It is grotesque when made highest. A civilization does not need merely more efficient men. It needs men who know what efficiency is for. It needs women and men capable of household worship, judgment, craft, learning, courage, governance, mercy, and beauty. It needs institutions that form rather than merely process. It needs schools that do not turn children into future users. It needs technologies placed beneath human goods. It needs markets under limits. It needs states under law. It needs platforms under judgment. It needs machines under hand. And it needs persons who can act when those orders fail. That last part matters because systems will fail. They will fail by incompetence, corruption, brittleness, capture, overload, false assumptions, adversarial pressure, bureaucratic cowardice, ideological deformation, and machine error. They will fail by succeeding at the wrong thing. They will optimize a metric and destroy a good. They will preserve safety and kill courage. They will increase access and thin authority. They will increase information and dissolve memory. They will increase options and weaken decision. They will increase comfort and reduce vitality. The formed person has to be able to stand inside such failure without waiting endlessly for permission. He has to repair. He has to build. He has to teach. He has to protect. He has to refuse. He has to bury. He has to remember. He has to forgive. He has to worship. He has to command tools. He has to act. The word act should not be made melodramatic. Most action is ordinary. A father turning off a device and reading to a child. A mother preserving a feast. A craftsman refusing ugly work. A teacher making students think before the machine answers. A programmer insisting a human being remain accountable for a system. A priest refusing to turn worship into content. A doctor treating the patient rather than only the protocol. A local official bearing responsibility instead of hiding behind process. A young man training his body instead of performing identity. A young woman refusing the machine's education and envy. A household keeping silence, a friend arriving in person, a citizen saying no when no has cost. These acts are not small because they are ordinary.